Welcome to the Focus Forward Business Podcast from SturdyMcKee.com.
Hey, welcome to the Focus Forward Business Podcast. I'm Sturdy McKee. I've got John Fenton here today. John Fenton is known as the CEO Sensei, the author of 5-Minute Mastery, the surprising secrets for transforming your stress to success and mastering what's important. He brings more than 40 years of experience and helps people at the intersection of leadership, clarity, and purpose. I'm very happy to have him on the show today. Thanks, John, for being here. Welcome.
Sturdy, thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Cool. So, how did you end up with the name CEO Sensei?
Great question. I've been in my prior life, I'm in a second career now, but I was managing partner for one of the top 10 accounting firms in the world, managing partner of a couple offices. And I discovered, which really a practice that really helped me be the best leader I could be, which was Tai Chi. And actually became a black belt and a master in that. Mastery is sort of elusive, right? You're always striving to be at your best. It's kind of continuous improvement. And a sensei, basically, the term sensei comes from a Japanese culture, really means one who came before. And so I have 40 plus years of business experience, leadership experience, and a lot of experiences in a lot of different ways. A collegiate athlete, and a leader in college, as well as my Tai Chi practice and also business experience in many different ways. And bringing it all together, I really started on a path of wanting to help executives and leaders be the best they could be. And so I'm no better than them. I'm just someone that came before.
Cool. So you spent some 30 years in a corporate gig for a bigger firm. How did you get started in your own business, and what kind of drew you down that path?
Yeah, it's great question. Another great question. I was talking to someone earlier today about this, but I've kind of broken myself and reinvented myself many times. Being a collegiate athlete at a high level and then going into the business world and accounting, and I had no clue what I was doing in the business world when I first started out. And then also, later in life, I decided to take early retirement. I decided that I felt there was more for me to give, more that I could share with executives and leaders that I couldn't do in the confines of a traditional accounting practice and in a corporate setting. And so I had this idea to retire, take early retirement, and begin my path towards doing that. And I wasn't sure how exactly it was going to work or how it was going to look, but I was driven to find a way to share some wisdom. Wisdom is really born of a lot of experience, and I felt like I had a lot to give. And so I took a leap of faith, with not really knowing what it would look like or how it would look, and really hit my stride back in 2018, and wrote my book that was an Amazon number one new release and bestseller then, and began on my path, really wholeheartedly and helping executives and leaders.
Nice. So one of the ways you do that, we talked before about creating a sticky culture. So how important is it for businesses to focus on that?
Oh my gosh, the term sticky, really, right? It comes from the marketing side of things, customer stickiness, right? And messaging, right? But I'm really talking about is inside the organization. And I've been really inspired by, I'm constantly reading and researching and gathering information about new ways of thinking about how we do business. And, you think about, we've come out of COVID, we're in the early stages of the 21st century. Most of what we learn as leaders has been based on 20th century thinking, which was a byproduct of the industrial age. We've not been in the industrial age since the 1940s or 50s with the advent of computers, honestly. We've been slowly shifting away from that. Some people call it the information age. It's even gone beyond that, I think. And maybe some even call it an emotional age, where we're trying to tap into the human spirit more. And so, really, I would say that, the old concept of management really, I think, is dead. We need to find a new way to think about how we do business and into the 21st century. So the stickiness, I was having a conversation with someone, we want to create a sticky organization. And what that really means is that we have a culture that's built on purpose and trust. People want meaning out of their work. They want the freedom to be able to do their work, have flexibility. And so it's creating an environment where your employees really are fully engaged. We see so much now, there's so much information between Gallup and McKinsey and other sources about engagement has been declining for some time, and it continues. It kind of ebbs and flows, but it's on the trend is to decline. And so how do we engage our employees more? Honestly, we want our employees to be critical thinkers, problem solvers, creative problem solvers. The old models, the old way of doing business didn't allow for that. There wasn't that much freedom to allow for that. And so the 21st century really demands that we think differently about how we lead our people, how we engage with them, and really go deep in that engagement. So creating a sticky culture, stickiness or sticky business, if you will, is one in which we are fully engaging with our employees on multiple levels and creating an environment that's based on purpose, trust, and meaning.
So how do you do that? How do you engage employees at a deeper level, on an
You know,
ongoing basis?
it's first of all, it's as simple as sitting down one on one, right? And I think
Yeah,
there's a lot of leaders. I think honestly, as leaders, we get in our own little, talk about vacuums and silos and things. There's a thing I call leader bias, right? We kind of think
sure.
everybody gets it, everybody knows. They don't. We have to
Of course they
remind
don't.
people.
How could they?
Right.
You know,
We have to remind people. So the way to go about it really is you got to open the lines of communications. You gotta and you've got to you got to be able to speak really one on one like a real human being. Gary Burnison, the chairman or CEO of Corn Ferry, said, what if we could lead from a radically human way?
mhm,
It's one on one. Now you can't, depending on the size of your company, it's hard to know everybody and to talk to everybody one on one, but you can model that. You can model that with your direct reports, people that are close to you within the organization, and model that for the other people in the organization. So it feeds down the food, down the line of command, if you will,
right.
so everybody can participate in a one-on-one conversation. That really starts there, and it's really, I was talking to the chief people officer of one of the top accounting firms in the world, and that's one thing they saw in the pandemic. People felt isolated, so they actually go out and try to have one-on-one conversation with people. The point is, people want to know that somebody cares about them,
Mhm.
that they're an integral part of the company, the organization, and not just a number or a cog in a wheel.
Well, yeah, and there's been. I mean, I've heard we've all been to talks and conferences and stuff where they talk about the Disney experience, or how to recognize employees and gift cards and birthdays and business card, all
Mhm,
this stuff. But the
mhm,
most powerful tool you have, I mean, think about kids or even psychology, and it's going to sound bad for maybe, but even your pets. What's the most
mhm.
important thing you can give them? And it's your undivided attention, right? The
Yep.
recognition and undivided attention, supersedes everything else, and yet it is one of the least expensive resources, least expensive things you have, to give, and it has such amazing traction. What Bill Walsh said, the most impactful tool that you have is praise,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
So talk about that a
Absolutely.
little bit, because what
Absolutely.
I keep seeing is there are these successful organizations, and I love sports because you can see it, right? You see it played out
Mhm,
on the
mhm,
field, you see, and then you hear the
mhm,
drama and the rest of it, but you can see how effective they're being. You can see the culture presented on the field, how the teams come together, the players come together, the coaching staff, the rest of them, during times of adversity, during times of success. Um, we don't see in business as much. It's behind the curtain, right? Intentionally.
mhm.
But
Right. Exactly.
I mean, what can I do if I'm a business owner? I've got 10, 20, 30 employees. What can I really start to do to create that stickiness, at least for the people I want to stick around?
Right. You know, yeah. So first of all, you need to kind of assess, the people on your team. You want to have the right people in the right seats, right? The old Jim Collins, Jerry Porras
Right. On the
concept.
bus.
Yeah, right seats on the bus, right? So I think it's understanding the talents and the abilities of your people, number one. Number two is, like we talked about, having one-on-one conversations with people. Show them that they matter by giving them that undivided attention. That's a real gift for them. Beyond that, it's not just compensation. And people want to know that they're, I mean, companies, companies buy, or people buy, not buy your products or buy your services, not because of what you do, but why you do it. It's old Simon Sinek phrase, right? Term. Um, and think about it in your company and organization. People work with you, not because of what you do, but why you do it. So if you have a clear foundation about what you believe, what really matters, what is your purpose for your business? Why do we exist as a business? I've taken several companies through, several clients through this process. Do you really understand why you're in business? What is it about it that makes your business unique, and what excites you? What stirs you when you talk about that? When you have a clear idea about that, and the people that are working with you have a clear idea about that, they begin to buy in. And the other thing I would say is trust. You were talking about sports teams, and you're right. Sports teams, especially football. I played football in college, so I love football. It's all visible. It's all out there for display, right? Every decision you make is on the field. Everybody can check and guess you and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And and I've studied this a lot because I've been on teams that really sucked, and I've been on teams that were championship teams. And I really believe the key difference was the level of trust in the organization. So once you start to acknowledge people and recognize them, and the gift cards and stuff, that's nice. I mean, some people they're not really jazzed about financial rewards. I mean, many times a financial reward is just sort of recognition. It's like feedback, right?
Right.
What they really want is the praise. They want to know they're doing good work. They want to know they're contributing to the organization at every level, and everybody has a role in the company. And great ideas can come from anybody in the organization, whether it's the janitor or whatever, up the line of command, if you will, right, within the organization and the structure. So it's people contributing to the overall success, and having that space. You may have heard the term psychological safety. Having the space to allow communication, to allow free exchange of ideas in the company, in the organization, that will better the company, better the organization, and people better the company, better the organization, and really make your company better, and make your people feel more like they're more a part of something bigger than themselves. I think everybody really wants to feel like there's something bigger than themselves. And that's why we come to work. We're social. Most of us are social people. We want to be around other people. We want to engage with other people. And if you can align the purpose of the organization with people's personal beliefs, I think you can really make it very, very enticing and hard for people to leave, because they really believe in what the company is all about, what the organization is all about.
Right. And you're going to attract more people who are motivated by that vision, by that purpose. And,
Exactly.
the clarity thing, I want to chime in here for a second, because sometimes as the founder, the owner, the visionary, and sometimes we think of well, we're not visionaries. If you started a business, by the way, you are a visionary because you saw something that didn't yet exist, right? You saw something and you had to build it. It's not a hallucination. It actually happened because of your vision, because of what you saw, right? So, but the challenge is to paint that picture for everybody else, because it might be crystal clear in your head, but if you don't get it into the other people's heads, if you don't paint that picture for folks to see and to be attracted to and to be aligned with, or maybe to opt out, right? It's not what motivates them. Then that's not a bad thing necessarily. You want people on the bus, who are going the same place and are, a part of the team, share the values, share the vision, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's incumbent upon you to paint that picture and make it a clear picture for everyone else in the organization.
It really is. It really is. I think I read this somewhere, but I'll claim it for now. But I think some of the best great leaders are able to hold the past, right? Hold where we came from. Really be laser focused on the present. What do we need to do today, with an eye to the future and a vision for the future? And you have to articulate that. And sometimes that's fuzzy. I mean, I met with a client several years ago where he really kind of lost his mojo, right? He kind of was a very successful business, small business, and he was troubled by the fact that he just didn't feel the same energy and excitement about his business.
Right.
And we began to work together and work through some things and kind of reinforce that. And we kind of focused on, well, why did you start the business? What was the purpose?
Right.
Does that purpose still hold true today? Kind of challenge that process, right? And he's just nailing it. I mean, he's more than doubled his size in the last couple of years and his growth in his business, and he's more energized and excited about it than he ever has been. So it's having that clear idea of connecting that purpose, but you got to articulate the vision. And it's not just, some companies and organizations put stuff up on the walls,
That's awful.
culture and vision and values, right?
Right.
It doesn't really matter. What matters is what you focus on, what you reward, and what you acknowledge, right? On a day-to-day basis, real time, authentically. You got to be authentic about this. You can't just phone it in. And people will see right through it if you're not being authentic.
For
So,
sure.
if you care about your people, they're going to reciprocate. And, but also creating that vision, that clarity about what the future looks like. So I have a process I lead companies through, strategic visioning. It's not strategic planning, but strategic visioning. And it really kind of takes, from the history, the culture, what's the current environments, SWOT analysis. What do we want this company to look like in the future, 5, 10 years out? Where's the bullseye of that vision is really your purpose. That's the central theme within that vision. And how do we take the company there and build initiatives around that?
Right. Well, I love what you said too about kind of losing your mojo. I know that a lot of people, it can happen. I mean, it can happen at any phase, but really
Hmm.
that kind of 5 to 15 year time frame, a lot of
Hmm.
folks lose touch with it, right? And they get bogged down
Right.
in the day to day and not feeling inspired. But going back to the beginning,
Hmm.
right? Something compelled you to start a business. People don't just go out and do it for no reason because it's, among other things, it's too hard, right? Something got you fired up. So what was that thing? And reconnecting with that can often kind of reignite
Hmm.
that fire. Is that what you
Yeah,
found?
absolutely. And, it was reinforced for me about 4 years ago. And I don't know if I shared this story with you, but I was having a great year, as I said, in 2018. My book had come out, and I was in a meeting with a client, and I passed out.
Oh no.
And he thought I was kind of kidding. We've been working together, so he nudged me, and I didn't move. So he ran to get help, and was in a particular building we normally would not be meeting in, but we were there that day. It was right before Christmas, and this director of the building ran in, saw I was non-responsive, got me on the floor, and began to administer CPR. And he worked on me for over 25 minutes.
Jeez.
He did not give up on me. My heart had stopped. I had stopped breathing. He got me to sinus rhythm. The EMTs came. I went to the hospital. I woke up a few days later in the ICU and at my bedside with my wife and my daughter. I had no idea what had happened to me. And the first question is, like most people go through, why did this happen? Why now? But I was asking the wrong question. The question I should have been asking was, and I later discovered for myself, um, why am I still here? What is my purpose? And I spent 2019 into 2020 recovering my health. Good news, full recovery. So it's all
Great,
good.
great. Yeah.
And that's all good. And in 2020, one of the good things that came out of the pandemic was our grandson was born in November 2020, and I was holding him at Christmas time, that first Christmas that year. And I kept asking myself that question over those 2 years about, well, why am I here? I know I want to help executives and people, but why am I still here? And I was holding him in my arms, and I said, now I understand why.
Mhm.
I'm here to be not only just a male influence in his life, but what about all the other grandkids and kids out there, making the world a better place for them? And I can do that. I can help executives be the best leaders they can be to make the world a better place.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and that really does reframe the question: why are we here? When you connect with that purpose, it's powerful, really powerful. Thanks for sharing
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. My pleasure.
Cool. So Hard to follow that one, John.
Sorry, man.
No,
Well,
that's great.
let me just, that's good. Let's talk about that for a minute. The other thing that came out of that was Scott, this man's name was Scott. Scott and I are obviously and I are very
Mhm.
good friends now. And Scott, I went back to him a few months later and I said, Scott, I just want to acknowledge you for not giving up on me. And that's when I didn't even know who he was, right? So that's when I found out about he'd been a life flight EMT, had administered CPR to over 100 people, highly rated and all that stuff. He said, John, I was not going to give up on you. I was not going to get, I could tell you were getting good circulation, good blood flow to your brain because they can kind of squeeze your thumbnail. If it turns red, that's a
Mhm.
good sign. And he goes, I felt like you were fighting to get your breath back. So I wasn't going to give up. I wasn't going to quit. He also said it was the only person he had never broken their ribs. So thankfully for that. I was sore for a long time, I will tell you. He's a very athletic
Sure.
guy. But the thing is, we're talking about entrepreneurs and business owners, right?
Mhm.
How many times have you felt like just throwing in the towel and giving up?
Yeah, it happens.
Right? How many times you quit on yourself, right? So my message is don't give up. Don't quit on yourself. There's always a solution. Find a new way. Keep going.
Right. Right. And get help
Yeah, ask for help.
if you're really stuck.
Yeah, it's one of the things
Yeah.
we don't want to do, right? Is ask for help. Just ask for help. There's plenty of people out there who want to help you.
Well, and as you said, circling back to the sensei idea, someone who's been there before you, you know,
Yeah,
there are
exactly.
people who've been there before you. Just one little caveat, be careful if you're not engaging somebody, or if you're engaging somebody who doesn't do this professionally or hasn't had a lot of practice, kind of a volunteer mentor or something. And it's not a bad thing. I've
Hmm.
done that. I'm sure you've done that.
Hmm.
But filter it through. So for anybody who's listening, make sure that the advice you're getting isn't simply whatever worked for them. Okay, that ends up being a little bit too common out there and what I've
Hmm.
seen. And you want someone who's going to help you figure out your path, because your path may be quite different. And
Right.
that's the as you alluded to before, it's your context, it's what's going on around you, it's your goals. It's
Hmm.
not it's not
Hmm.
my journey to live over again.
Right. Right. No, it's a very good point, Sturdy. Very good point.
So I'm sure you've worked well. I mean, tell us a little about that. So maybe you don't have to reveal who they are exactly or any of that, but folks who've kind of come to you with those challenges and really wanted to work through and make it to the next level. You just shared one story with us. How about, you have any others?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Um, you know, Executives, business leaders who build relationships within the organization is
Mhm.
one example. He had burned some bridges.
Mhm.
Another, really dealing with conflict and how to communicate. So one of the things I've walked people through at the board level or one-on-one is how to communicate with each other, how to diffuse the situation, and how to take judgment out of the equation. And it's built on several different resources, emotional IQ and fierce conversations, some other
Mhm.
sources to help deal with conflict, right? To deal with how we relate to people. And hang on one sec. You can edit that out, I'm sure. Um, and and so how to deal with conflict. And we just don't know how to communicate with people. There's a lot of history and emotions, right? It gets balled up, kind of included in all that. And so we want to be able to find a way to communicate with folks on a different level and recognize that we all have our own life experiences. And so everybody brings their own experiences into every conversation.
Mhm.
One of the most important things we can do is to really let silence do the heavy lifting. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Sometimes you want to talk at people all the time. Tell them, and talk to them. When you sit down and talk to somebody, just listen. Listen between the words. What is it you feel like you're trying to say, right? And let them speak. Let them articulate. Give them space. Give them space to share what's going on with them and having those real one-on-one conversations.
Yeah, and ask follow-up questions. Drill down a little deeper too, right?
Yes, yes. Don't always take the first 4 or 5 answers is the only answer.
Right.
Yeah, you got to keep because people. I mean, we're sometimes we're guarded, right? We don't want to share everything in our lives, right?
Sure.
You don't want to be intrusive, but if you're one-on-one with somebody in your organization, you need to kind of ask, okay, well, what's going on with you? What's happening, right? And try to create a space of vulnerability. That's the other thing I think is important. And we have this kind of this, some of us had this radar up. Oh, vulnerability. I can't be vulnerable. I mean, the act of vulnerability really is what creates a space for real, open, honest communication and trust.
Mm.
And if you think about vulnerability, it takes a great deal of courage to allow yourself to be vulnerable. Brene Brown talks a lot about that, right? The power of vulnerability. Great. It's just a great way to be able to open the dialogue, let the guard down, and not always think that we are right all the time, right? So it's allowing other people to share their viewpoints and see if there's some synergy.
Yeah. Well, and being right all the time doesn't get you maybe where you want to be.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Well, and
Exactly.
school does this a real disservice. I mean, you work with people in the professional world. I've worked a lot with folks in healthcare and some others, right? And they've got
Mhm.
18, 20 years of training to be right and do it by themselves, at
Right.
age 24, right? So how
Right.
how in the world do they overcome that and start to realize that it's not about right and wrong most of the time. It's about,
Mhm.
connecting, communicating, listening, working with people. And I mean, I'm guilty. I came out thinking, oh, I got the right answers, right?
Sure.
And
Exactly.
then found that,
Yeah. We
you
could.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, patients didn't connect the way I wanted them to early on,
Right.
right? Because you're right.
Right.
You're the expert.
Right.
So what? They got to know you care.
Exactly. I think letting if you think of some of the best leaders you've known in your
Mhm.
in your experience, or if the listeners in their own experience, think of who the best leaders you came in contact with, whether it was in a prior company or even someone you've not even worked with. Is this someone as you emulate as a leader? What's important? What do you think's really makes them stand out? I think what I found was that the leaders that really listened, they weren't judging, really just listening, and then trying to find a way to leverage, really communicate with you and leverage on what your talents and your strengths were, and helping to guide you that way. And I think that's what's everything imperative for leaders now is to you're really coaching your people, right? You're really coaching your team up, coaching them to be successful. And
Well, I love that you said that because I've seen an awful lot of people, and I know from a good deal of my personal experience, corporate business world, hospitals, whatever, the big organizational
mhm,
structures and the management and leadership there isn't and may not be for you, but certainly wasn't for me the leadership that I wanted to emulate. It wasn't
right.
in many cases done well, and there was a
Hmm.
coldness to it, right? There was
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, and it wasn't just like directed at me individually. I witnessed it watching other people, how it was happening, and just
Hmm.
really rubbed me the wrong way, right? So the role models that I found for me that work best and often do for clients is think about the best coach you've ever had. Think about the best coach your kid has ever
Hmm.
had. If you haven't done it yourself or have that experience yourself, but they're demanding, they push you, right? They might even yell at you or raise their
Hmm.
voice, but you're safe, right? You know that they have your back. You know they want the best for you. You know they believe in you. You know they're simply trying to push you to a place that you may not even believe you can get to. But they're solidly
Hmm.
in your corner. And we don't have enough of that and
Absolutely.
can carry it over into our work lives.
Right. Not everybody's had that experience, right? And it's really, as
Mhm.
you're bringing it up, I so vividly remember being in high school, and I mean, I had not played football before I got to high school, and so I get to high
Mhm.
school, and it's a brand new high school, it's a big high school, and but somehow the coaches probably put more faith and believed in me more than I did in myself, honestly,
Sure.
initially, and it gave me the impetus to keep moving forward and to grow. And I'll never forget, even we were in the playoffs, in the state high school playoffs, and we went all the way and won the championship. And it was second or third game in, and I had broken a bone in my foot. Okay, now you can't fix that, right? And
Not on the
they would stick
field.
and they would stick my foot in a bucket of ice water on the way to the next game, and I didn't start because I wasn't even able to practice. I gimped around on crutches and everything all week long, but I would get in the game and just got through it, and coach even asked me he even came to me, he said, "Well, can you go?" And I said, "Coach, it hurts like heck right now, but actually I said hell. It hurts like hell right now, but when it's kickoff, the adrenaline's flowing, it might be different." And so I got in the game and I played, did as much as I could, just kind of block the pain out. Um, but he really trusted me, right? He came
Mhm.
to me and asked me. He just didn't assume anything. And I think that he was a very special person in my life. Actually, that my head coach in high school made a big difference for me. And I think we get a chance to do that every day as leaders, whether you're in a team or not a team or whatever your
Right.
business or organization is. You got a great opportunity every day to make a difference in the lives of the people that you work with and to help them be their best.
That's awesome. Incredibly well said. Um, if people are curious, I know, and I did this right before we went on for the podcast, so I'm going to recommend
Mhm.
it. They can grab your 5-minute shift on your website. Your website's
Yep,
johnjfenton.com. 5-minute shift,
that's
just
right.
your mindset, focus, settle. Again, I did it right before our conversation today and would
Mhm.
recommend you guys go grab it. And that's johnjfenton.com. Is there anything else you'd like to leave us with?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have another little item. It can help you, as our theme today was engagement, right, and purpose. I
Oh,
created a document, strategic. It's called, just go to johnjfenton.com/strategic vision, and you'll get a landing page, and you can download uh, kind of a cheat sheet, if you will. It's 11 key things to think about in terms of building a sticky organization and having deeper, higher levels of engagement. So again, it's johnjfenton.com. It's my website /strategic vision, all one word. And they can get that free download there as well. And check me out on
awesome.
LinkedIn too. I'm on LinkedIn. You can check me out there as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much, John. This is really helpful, useful, and certainly appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much, Sturdy. It's been a great to be on with you today. Have a great day.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for listening.